Scene 2, Belmont. A room in Portia's house. Enter Portia and Nerissa. Portia, how many visitors will come today? The whole world seems to seek my hand, the bones and hair and face attached to it, and all my father's lands and goods. And I must let them court me one by one. My little body is hoary of the world. Nerissa, you would be wary indeed, sweet madam, if your miseries were in the same abundance as your good fortunes are. And yet, for all I can see, people who eat too much sustain as much hurt as those who starve with nothing. How pleasing would it be if no one sought your hand? It is no middling happiness, therefore, to be seated in the middle. Having too much sends you grey hairs sooner, while having just enough never worn you out. Portia, good sentences and well pronounced. Nerissa, it would be better if you followed them. Portia, if to do were as easy as to know what's good to do, chapels would be churches and poor men's hovels would be princes' palaces. I can easy teach 20 what's good to be done, then be one of the 20 and follow my own teaching. Nerissa, but mistress, once you choose a husband. Portia, how is it choosing when I may neither accept whom I will nor refuse whom I dislike? Thus the desires of a living daughter are curbed by the will of a dead father. Is it not hard, Nerissa, that I cannot choose one nor refuse any? Nerissa, your father was ever virtuous, and holy men at their death have good inspirations. Portia, oh, yes, bestow your beloved daughter by lottery. Nerissa, it's not by chance or fate that you're bestowed. Your suitors choose among these chests of gold, of silver, and lead, for one of them bestows your hand, as your loving father ordered. Merchant of Venice. Card 7. Portia, one chest contains my hope of happiness, ruined if the wrong man chooses it. Nerissa, your father promised you no man would choose rightly, saving him who will rightly love. Of all the princely suitors who have come, has any stirred some warmth in your affection? Portia, list their names, and I'll describe each one. You'll know from my description, my affection. Nerissa, first, the Neapolitan prince. Portia, oh, he's a stallion, isn't he? All he talks about is horses, and keeps comparing himself to his noble steed until I'm surprised he doesn't shoe himself. I much suspect his lady mother played false with a smith. Nerissa, then we have Count Palatine. Portia, he does nothing but frown, disapproving of everything and everybody. He hears merry tales and smiles not. I fear he will turn out to be a weeping philosopher when he grows old, being so full of unmannerly sadness in his youth. Nerissa, I take it neither stirs your warm affection? Portia, I'd rather be married to a death's head with a bone in its mouth than to either of these. Nerissa, what think you of the French lord, Monsieur Le Bon? Portia, God made him, and therefore let him pass for a man. In truth, I know it is a sin to be a mocker, but, whatever any other man claims, then he claims more. He has a horse better than the Neapolitans, a better bad habit of frowning than the Count Palatine. If a bird sings, he falls straight to dancing, he will fence with his own shadow. He is every man at once, so if I married him, I should marry 20 husbands. And 20 is too many for me to make happy. Nerissa, what say you, then, to Falconbridge, the young Baron of England? Merchant of Venice. Card 8. Portia, you know I say nothing to him, for he understands not me, nor I him. He has neither Latin, French, nor Italian, and if I were accused in court of speaking English, you could testify that I'm completely innocent. He is the picture of a proper man, but, alas, who can converse with a dumb show? And how oddly he is dressed. I think he bought his doublet in Italy, his round hose in France, his bonnet in Germany, and his behavior everywhere. Nerissa, what think you of the Scottish lord, his neighbor? Portia, he seems to be a man with nothing of his own, for when he needed a box in the ear, he borrowed it from the Englishman, and swore that he'd repay him when he was able, and then he asked the Frenchman to guarantee the loan. Nerissa, how do you like the young German, the Duke of Saxony's nephew? Portia, very vilely in the morning, when he is sober, and most vilely in the afternoon, when he is drunk. When he is best, he is a little worse than a man, and when he is worst, he is a little better than a beast. No matter if I yearn most desperately for a husband, and him the last unmarried man on earth, I'd make the shift to do without him. Nerissa, do you mean that if he should choose the right casket, you would refuse to perform your father's will? Oh, Portia, you gave your promise to obey his will in this. Portia, therefore, for fear of the worst, I pray thee, set the deep glass of wine on wrong casket, for if the devil were inside, and that temptation outside, I know he would choose it. I will do anything, Nerissa, before I'll be married to a sponge. Nerissa, you need not fear, lady, having any of these lords, for they have told me their determination, which is, to return to their home and trouble you no more with their wooing, unless you may be won by some other means than this game of caskets. Portia, if I live to be as old as rock, I will die as single as the moon unless my hand is won according to my father's will. I am glad this parcel of wooers are so reasonable as to go home without attempting the test, for there is no one among them but I dote on his very absence. God speed them on their way. Merchant of Venice, Cardi 9. Nerissa, do you not remember, lady, when your father was still alive, there was a young Venetian, a scholar and a soldier, who came here in company with the Marquis of Montferrat. Portia, yes, Bassanio, I think that was his name. Nerissa, true, madam, he, of all the men that ever my foolish eyes looked upon, was best deserving of a fair lady. Portia, I remember him well, and he was worthy of such praise. But with these rich lords and princelings cluttering my porch, I fear that such a man of great worth and small title will never find my door. Enter a servant. How now? What news? Servant, the 4 strangers seek for you, madam, to take their leave, and there is a forerunner come from a 5th, the Prince of Morocco, who brings word the prince his master will be here tonight. Portia, if I could bid the 5th welcome with so good a heart as I can bid the other 4 farewell, I should be glad of his approach. Nerissa, but he's as dark of skin as a funeral costume. Portia, then he should treat me like a corpse and bury me rather marry me. Nerissa, no, treat you like a cow and drive you rather than wive you. Portia, no, treat me like a baker and bread me rather than wed me. Nerissa, treat you as a horse treats an unwelcome rider. Portia, come, Nerissa. Sirrah, go before. While we shut the gates upon one wooer, another knocks at the door.